Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to PMDC online lecture room. This is Bakhtiar Ahmad, lecturer in elective English, PMDC colleges, Peshawar. Dear students, in my previous lecture, I have discussed the course contents for the first year English advanced students, and I have also thrown some light on the paper format. I hope there is no problem in that. Dear students, today my topic of discussion is very important, and it is about the 16th President of America, the great American, Abraham Lincoln. Dear student, in today's session you will learn about the life, the achievements and different traits of personality of the character of Abraham Lincoln, and at the end I will give you an assignment. The topic is very important from examination point of view. In board exam you will get long questions as well as short questions from my today's session. Please carefully watch my today's video lecture. Look at, dear students, mostly you are asked about the character of Abraham Lincoln in section C. The question carries 10 marks, and also you can cover some short questions as well. Look at the questions are given, and I have picked this question from previous board papers. Okay, dear students, let me proceed the topic. Abraham Lincoln, he was born in rural Kentucky in 1809 to parents of low social standing. Lincoln passed through many trials and tribulations in his early life, and then he started his career as a store clerk in the state of Illinois. Dear students, in 1832, in the Black Hawk War, he became the captain of his volunteer company, and then 2 years later he became the fixture of Whig Party in the General Assembly for the next 8 years, and he was also admitted to the bar in 1837. Fine. And then he moved to Springfield. Then in 1846 Lincoln was elected to US Congress and moved to Washington. Then he returned after failures in politics. There was a burning issue in that time, the issue of slavery, and it strongly irritated him, for which he ran unsuccessful attempt, but Lincoln never gave up, and despite his losses he gained national exposure due to his flair oration, and he established himself as a leading opponent of popular sovereignty. Dear student, physically, if I discuss Lincoln, so I'm afraid that he was not handsome. Lincoln was ugly, he was untidy, and he was unpolished. He was so very careless that he didn't mind carrying important papers in his hat. But instead of these things, Tucker said that Lincoln, with all his unpolished habits, was the best man to control the situation and to lift out America from the swamp. That is why what happened? He won the Republican nomination for president in 1860 due to his talent, manipulation, and steadfastness. Lincoln was chosen for dismantling two burning issues. One was to restore the Union, and the second was to abolish slavery. It was difficult time for Lincoln, the newly elected president of USA. His statesmanship was put to an acidic test. Fine. To keep the northern and southern states together with divergent views was a challenge to him, and he wanted to abolish slavery at the same time to keep the Union intact. Though Lincoln hated war, but the war was started, and according to his conception, the war was wrong. Yet he considered it unavoided if right was to be established against great wrong. He was of the opinion that the worst of people were greedy and fight for the things their greed desired. And if greedy men would not be persuaded to abstain from fighting, the best of them should resist, for the world would not become wise all of a sudden. Lincoln played an overpowering role as a commander in chief in time of war. Controversially, he suspended several rights as defined by the Constitution and expanded the powers of both the executive and the federal government considerably. The Civil War proved long and costly for both sides, but Lincoln behaved with great kindness towards the southern states. Right? He behaved in a very kind and sympathetic manner because he had gained what he was fighting for. The slaves were free and the Union was saved. Lincoln was very kind-hearted and sympathetic president. Look at in the one-act play, we have read that Lincoln felt sympathy for Mrs. Otterley having lost her son in war, though Lincoln opposed her uh, opinion of war because he was of the opinion that the war was unavoidable for establishing great right. He considered Mrs. Otterley a noble and generous lady, and he begged her to think kindly of her, while he strongly condemned Mrs. Blow for having beastly feelings against the South. In anger, he didn't shake hands with Mrs. Blow and instructed Susan not to let her in again. Lincoln was chosen for the noble cause. Lincoln was built on a grand scale. He was born generous and noble. As a man, he was industrious, honest, and kind, and as a politician, he was frank, firm, and fair and shrewd. He was Beckett in spirit and Alexander in action. By no means less firm in execution of policies, he never lost sight of the human virtues of peace and love. He was forced to fight simply because he had to save the Union on his country from the destructionists of the South. His sincerity of purpose, firmness of character, strength of will, and at the same time love for humanity were never shaken at any time during his bitter struggle against the Southerners of the Republicans about his simple ways, which might discredit him in Washington. He was clear about his mandate on the union of the country and abolition of slavery, and told him that he would have no strings attached in its implementation. After becoming the president, he fought both the internal and external conflicts with a masterly craftsmanship. He smothered the opposition in his own ranks by removing the undesirables such as Hook and Smith, and he won the seasoned seabird on his side by asserting the truth in his policy drive. He tolerated Grant with his drink because he could win victories. His humanitarian attitude towards Mrs. Otterley, Scott, Lee, and soldier in general will always go down in the history as an unparalleled example of political magnanimity and nobility of mind. His last speech clearly indicates his love for constitutional way of thinking, and he wanted to see the will of the people prevail, and believed in government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and he defined democracy. Lincoln was thus a great man as well as a great statesman who not only saved his country from disintegration but also uprooted the seeds of slavery from the American soil. Stanton was prophetic in his estimate that he was the property of the posterity for the causes he boldly fought and for the principle he so well established. Lincoln was assassinated on Friday, 14th April 1865 by John Wilkes Booth, and he opened American nation, and he will always be remembered in the history of America. Okay, dear students, this was all about my today's lecture. I hope you have really enjoyed my lecture and you have learned many things about the character of Abraham Lincoln. Dear students, there is an assignment for you. Write in detail about Lincoln's life, education, and achievements. You can cover some questions in section C, and in section B you can cover some of the question in your examination while attempting this assignment. Okay, dear students, thank you very much for watching my today's video lecture. In my next video lecture I will try to discuss the characters of William Seward, the Secretary of State, and Mrs. Lincoln. Till the time we meet, dear student, goodbye. Happy learning, keep loving literature.